Hey everybody, welcome to another very special video here on the Blue Abroad YouTube channel. Now today we are chatting with our new CEO, not so new anymore, very much part of the furniture, Mr. Brian Cook. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks very much, Terry, and it's good to be on the podcast. And one of the initial podcasts that I've done in my first 6 months. So I've been very quiet on the publicity scene.
No, well, it's an honor to have you here to make your debut, and hopefully many more to come.
Thank you.
Look, let's get straight into it. I want to basically start off just a bit of a high-level summation of your time at the club. Been here for a little while now. What are some of the things that you've learned up until this point?
Well, the first thing I probably noticed in my first month, let's say, was that there was a fair amount of talent around, not just on field but also off field, and a little bit more talent than I probably expected. On top of that, the club was, in my opinion, had very much adequate resources to be able to fund the things it wanted to do. Not all clubs can do that, and Carlton are in a fortunate position where they can. And a few other things that stood out was the staff commitment and the want to be really successful, and just wanting the tools and the methodology on how to be successful. But the thing that really stood out for me was a willingness for change. In an area of their time at the club or their own development where there was this passionate want to change. And when you get people on that level, you've got a very good chance of being successful. It reminded me a little bit of Geelong back in 2007 early days, where the players after their 2006 poor season were so determined to change and wanted to change. There was an appetite for change, and it was much easier to coach people, to manage people, to lead people. And I get the feeling at Carlton that is the case. So they were my initial perceptions of the football club.
It's interesting because I found that part of the formula to success is failure, and obviously for a number of years we just haven't been able to put ourselves in a position that we would have liked to have been, playing finals and the like, coming out of the fresh rebuild, and get the sense that hopefully this is now the start of that turning point where the failures of the past turn into the lessons of the future.
Let's hope so. Certainly from an attitude point of view and a passionate point of view, the club couldn't be in a better position. And really, what needs to happen is probably, ensure we get, talented and people with great values as well to lead the place, put really good people around them, whether they be on field or off field, empower those particular leaders, and make sure that we have a business plan that they can follow, so that we're all on the same freeway together. Probably the thing I noticed most, if someone said, where can you improve the most, as distinct from what did you find? It wasn't about talent or skills or so forth. It was more about just getting people on the same pathway, the same freeway, and following a business plan of some sort that everyone agreed to and owned and was willing to carry it out. So that's been my major task, I think, over the first 6 months, to try and develop that. Because what I did find, if I can just use a couple of examples, is some, if talking about being on the freeway, some cars would not get to the freeway. They do a funny right hand turn. You'd find that when you got on the freeway, if there was some sort of minor hiccup, that you'd stop completely for a long period of time. There was even some that were doing U-turns. And so what I want really is a lot of vehicles just traveling, Hyundais of course, traveling in the same direction, being as one, not veering off onto side streets and side roads, staying on the course, irrespective of how poor the conditions are at times. You might lose one or two in a row, who knows, but you've got to stay the course. You've got to stay passionate and have that resilient leadership. So that's and so for me, it was more about straightening up the organisation as distinct from reinvention or whatever. So that was my takeaway.
Yeah. Well, touching on the business plan, you've gone about a new strategy, and we're looking to create the next business plan, and I guess our purpose statement as well. And a lot of the
Yeah.
members would have received your email last week, and it's very interesting the level of interaction and input that you're looking from the fans. So, talk to us a little bit about why you've decided to go down that path and what we're looking to do.
Yes, no, I'm a firm believer that um, a business plan has the best chance of being implemented when it's owned by its stakeholders, by its shareholder stakeholders, by its staff, in our case, by our players, by our fans. And it's also an educational process for our people. When we get them involved, they start to understand the meaning of values and why have a purpose and what are key performance areas and all those sorts of things. So that's been the aim for me. I mean, we could have hired one of the a consultant to come in and sit in a corner and develop a plan. I could have sat in the corner and developed a plan, but what we preferred to do was have it as an have as much an inclusive process as possible. So we've had 4 workshops with our staff and our some of our stakeholders. We've had we've asked members about our purpose. We're going back to our staff this week about purpose and vision. And so it's been a very inclusive process. And again, the emphasis is on not necessarily having a 200-page plan, but having a simple and meaningful plan that's owned by people that has the best chance of being carried out. And that's always been my philosophy as a CEO in 30 years in football clubs.
Yeah, well, 30 years, you've seen quite a few eras of the game come and go. We're well and truly into this digital sphere now. What are some of your observations of the development of the sport, not only as a sport, but also as something we consume?
Oh, look, I think the digital world, and the footy world with digital is fast moving. It's hard to keep up with all of the innovations that are occurring, and there is no doubt that the IT area, the digital area is just going to be so important for us in the next years. Whether it be with our customer, whether it be with our players in terms of their stats, with our recruitment, with our finance, and the accounting, in the accounting records, and how we go about providing statements, there's all sorts of innovations that we need to use. We're currently investing a few dollars, a large amount of dollars in that whole digital world. We have our own digital team at the club at the moment. But if I took one of those out and said, look, the consumer, let's call, I don't like the word consumer at times, say our members and our supporters. At the moment, our KPIs around that are, number of members, 85,000, profit per head, $149. But what we don't talk about enough is, the engagement levels, the customer satisfaction out of our digital experiences that we can provide. And so we need to get into that area in a bigger way. And I think that's the case in all clubs, not just Carlton, just trying to find the right ways of finding more about our customers, providing experience that they themselves are customized with, and also commercializing that data with our members. For instance, identifying the high chance, high potential people, high potential members who could purchase a Hyundai one day. And so they're the sorts of things that we're trying to achieve right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm 31, and when I reflect on my experience as a fan watching the game, we've gone from this linear event that is, me and the game, and then coming home and reading the papers and all of that. And we've moved into this area where it's me, it's the game, but it's also this third screen with the stats and the fantasy scores. And, for some of the
Yeah.
punters out there, it's a really interesting time. And like you said, to be able to capitalize on that third or fourth screen, I think is part of the ingredient.
No, no, absolutely, absolutely. And there's software now around which provides the ability for the spectator to actually for all of the spectators to make joint and group comment about the last coach's move, which is amazing stuff, and it's happening. I don't know how quick that will be, picked up by AFL, but it's out there, and it's something that needs to be considered.
Yeah, for sure. I think also when you talk about the access, I mean, this conversation we're having right now, 20 years ago, it's a bit more tricky to have such a conversation. I don't think there was a fan podcast 20 years ago.
No, no, no. What was a podcast 20 years ago? And who? No one would have known. Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you think we best prepare for, the real digitization of the fan? Like what are we putting in place to get ahead of the rest of the league moving forward with this?
Yeah, I think it depends on what your own business plan is and where your focuses are, and I think that should lead your IT plan. There's lots of stuff that's happening in our data analytics, particularly as I said before around our consumer, but also in football. You're finding there is more information and data available, in particular around recruiting, and linking that up against also contracts and whether your number 17 player who gets paid X amount of dollars is actually performing at that level, given the stats that you find. So they are the areas that we're actually getting into now, okay, without giving away too much, and there's going to be a lot more in the future.
Yeah. Well, we've got a big game this week, Sunday, 4:40 at Marvel Stadium against the Crows. It's Mother's Day, so we've got plenty of time to do our brunches and our lunches, and then hopefully get down to the game as well. What are your musings of the attendance numbers this year so far?
Oh, look, I think they've been outstanding. If there's something that's hit me, it's the passion and the the behaviours of the attendance behaviours of Carlton Football Club members and supporters. It's been amazing. We're the highest drawing crowd now in highest drawing club, sorry, in the AFL at the moment. We have the two highest crowds out at Marvel. And our average attendance is over 50,000, which is the highest in the AFL. So look, we're going wonderfully well in terms of just getting our amazing supporters and members to the game. At Marvel this week, this will probably be one of our lowest crowds, having introduced it that way. But look, I think we'll get 30,000, which will be a good crowd on a Mother's Day against Adelaide, compared to possibly some other games.
It's interesting, Brian, regardless of how many people we do get there on Sunday, obviously it's very important that we do get there. But one thing I've noticed is, regardless of the numbers that do show up, there seems to be a different level to the depth of the sound. It almost is like people are starting to really change their beliefs and really start to get on board with what's happening.
There is so much passion and joy in the stands when Carlton are doing well. Very much akin to being at a final, if I can be honest. It's quite overwhelming, and for a new person like myself, because I'm not used to that. Geelong have a relatively quiet crowd. I sort of call them thinkers rather than barrackers. But Carlton are the opposite. Well, they put it like that. They're certainly barrackers. They're probably thinkers too. But you certainly notice the joy and the passion in the stands, and it's unbelievable. And it's heartwarming. It's comfort. It's a real comfort for me to see the passion. And look, and even when we don't win, we get beat. We understand the passion. I understand that Carlton want to win. But I just love it. It's fantastic.
Nah, look, it's been great. It's been a good start to the season, and I've been pushing the whole just get to 12 wins, and we'll see what happens from there. If we can get ourselves into a final, that'd be great. And the last time we were in finals was 2013, and I just yearn for that raw one more time.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, just win more than we lose, okay?
I think that's the move. Brian, listen, it's been a pleasure. I know you're a busy man and time is of the essence. We've got finals and flags to win. So I do appreciate you taking the time out to have a chat with me and the Blue Abroad audience, and hope to see you again.
Good, thanks. Thanks, Terry. Thanks for that.